Hello guys, welcome to our today's class. Today we shall look at revision just like I had promised in the previous videos that we did. So today we shall look at a revision, and what are we looking in revision? Income tax. All questions involving income tax and the formula I gave you in the previous videos is what we shall look at today. So guys, I'll only read the question, but I'll provide you with the table. So without wasting much time, let's start. The question reads, the table below shows income tax rate that were used in 2011. So here is the table. So let me draw the table before I continue reading. So you have the table monthly taxable pay. This part is monthly. Monthly taxable pay, in bracket, it is in shillings. Then we have tax rate on this other part. That one is in percentage in each shilling. In each shilling. So our first bar, we have 1 to 10,164. The rate offered there is 10. We have 10,165 up to 19,740. So let me just finish the table, then we continue. So here is the table. Now let me repeat the question. The table below shows income tax rate that were used in 2011. There is the table. In that year, Kantai's monthly taxable earnings amounted to 33,000. Calculate the amount of gross tax. Calculate the amount of gross tax. That is part A of the question. Part B reads, Kantai was entitled to a monthly personal relief of 1,162 shillings and a monthly insurance relief at the rate of 15% of the premium paid, subject to a maximum relief amount of 5,000 Kenyan shillings per month. How much tax did he pay each month if he paid a monthly premium of 6,900 Kenyan shillings toward his life insurance policy? That is part B of the question. Then part C reads, in 2012, he was promoted in his job and his monthly earnings were increased. The additional earnings were taxed at 25% in each shilling, and he paid 28% more tax each month. Calculate the percentage increase in his earnings. So guys, that is the question. That is a 10 marks problem, income tax. So let's start with the part A of the question. Ask, calculate the amount of gross tax, the total tax. That is what the examiner needs you to find. So how do we get that total tax? For you to get the total tax or the gross tax, you must have taxable income, because it is taxable income that at the end will determine what tax is this person paying. Great. Now, in some cases, an examiner won't provide you the taxable income. But in some cases, like for example, this question, an examiner has already given out our taxable income to be what? 33,000. So, and remember, I told you back that taxable earnings is the same as taxable income. So you don't have to be confused that this taxable earnings, is it taxable income? Yeah, they are the same. So let's start. So already we have our taxable income to be 33,000 Kenyan shillings. So how do we get the gross tax? So you first of all ask yourself, this 33,000 Kenyan shillings falls in which band? Falls in which band? You see these rows, they're the one referred to as band. Band. B-A-N-D. Bands. So ask yourself, where is this 33,000 Kenyan shillings? In which band is it falling at? So if I look on my side of monthly taxable pay, I realize that 33,000 is falling in between 29,317 up to 38,892. So I'll make sure to put a stack there so that I don't surpass that band, because the moment I surpass that band, that means I'll be overtaxing Kantai. I'll be overtaxing Kantai, and that one will be wrong. So let's start. Okay, so I'll always encourage this kind of arrangement. This side we have income. So income is 10,164. 10,164. You multiply it by 10 all over 100. What you'll get in this side is always tax. It's always tax. So there's a reason why I'm arranging it this way. You'll come to realize later. So let's first arrange the income tax, then we'll later get the tax. So from 10,164, we have 19,740 subtract from 10,164. That is the flow of how we arrange those things. Like you take this, subtract from this subtract from this, and so forth and so on. So having 19,740 subtract 10,164, you get 9,576. 9,576. You multiply by the rate that is there, that is 15 all over 100. You shall get the answer. Now take 29,316 minus 19,740. 29,316 minus 19,740. You shall get the same 9,576. Multiply by 20 all over 100. Moving on to the next part, which is 25, where our taxable earnings lies. Now, you won't take 38,892 subtract from 29,316. Why? 38,892 is not our taxable income. It is not our taxable earnings. 33,000 is our main taxable income, or the taxable earnings. So it is the one that lies in that band. So instead of having 38,892, we shall have 33,000. So take up 33,000 minus 29,316. You shall get 3684. So now have 3684 multiply by what? Multiply by 9. By now that's 25 all over 100. Now let's get the tax. So 10,164 multiply by 10 all over 100. We shall have 1016.4. 9,576 multiplied by 15 over 100. We shall get 1436.4. 9,576 multiplied by 20 all over 100. We shall have 1915.2. Then the last part, but not least, 3684 multiplied by 25 over 100. We shall have 921. Now, if we sum up the total tax, remember the other synonym for gross is the same as total. Gross is the same as total. So in mathematics, the language grows. When someone talks of gross, he or she refers to as total. It's the same as total. The same as total. So don't worry much of what is gross tax, what is what. And that is why it's easier to, when you know the other synonym of another name, is easier, it's way more easier to deal with it. So let's have the gross tax of 1016.4 plus 1436.4 plus 1915.2 plus 921. We have a total of 5289. That means our gross tax will be 5,289. That is our gross tax. So this is the part A. And remember, it is only 4 marks. So where are those 4 marks coming from? The table, the addition, and your final answer. So that is that. Let's check at part B of the question. Part B read, let me repeat the question under part B. Kantai was entitled to a monthly personal relief of 1,162 and a monthly insurance relief at the rate of 15% of the premium paid, subject to a maximum relief amount of 5,000 shillings per month. How much tax did he pay each month if he paid a monthly premium of 6,900 Kenyan shillings toward his life insurance policy? That is the question under part B. So what does the question want? How much tax? And how much tax is the same as net tax. So that means we had a formula that net tax is given by what, guys? Gross tax minus relief. If you observe at this question, you'll realize that we have two relief. So that means it is possible for relief to be even more than one. Like they can be 2, they can be 3, any number, depending on the examiner interest. So Kantai was entitled to a personal relief. So that means relief one is 1,162. And a monthly insurance relief. Remember, monthly insurance relief, those are just names. But the main thing we want is a relief. So our relief 2, which has been given in terms of percentage, 15% of premium paid subject to a maximum relief amount of 5,000 per month. And we're being told how much tax did he pay each month if he paid a monthly premium of. So this one was 15% of premium. And we are being told that in that month he paid a premium of 6,900 Kenyan shillings. 6,900 Kenyan shillings. We are being told to get what? The net tax. We already have the formula. We have the relief, we have the gross tax. Very much easy. So, let's get the relief. So our relief 2 in terms of amount will be what? That is 15%, which is 15 over 100 multiplied by the premium, 6,900, giving us what? So having 15 over 100, you multiply by 6,900, that gives us 1035. So that means our total relief will be equal to 1162 plus 1035, giving us a total of what? Of 2197 Kenyan shillings. So let's get the net tax. So remember our gross tax was what? 5289. 5289 minus the total relief, which is 2197. So subtract that one, 5289 minus that answer, we get our net tax to be 3092 Kenyan shillings. Let's check at part C of the question. Let me just reread it again. In 2012, he was promoted in his job and his monthly earnings were increased. The additional earnings were taxed at 25% in each shilling, and he paid 28% more tax each month. Calculate the percentage increase in his earnings. How I wish I could have written that question here. But if I were you, I would have noted it down. This type of question is really contains something much more important for a student preparing to do KCSE or maybe mock exam. That part C really contain a lot of marks, and you as a student, you really don't have to leave that question undone just because you don't understand that term. So there's a part here that there's a sentence here I must read again. We are being told the additional earnings were taxed at 25% in each shilling, and he paid 28% more tax each month. So guys, listen. The additional earnings were taxed at 25% in each shillings. That part alone, that 25% is enough to tell you that during that month, that person was taxed up to the band where we have 25%. Let me just show you in the band we add. You see this part? That is where up to that band, that is where that guy was taxed. Okay? Then the other sentence just after it, which read, and he paid 28% more tax each month. Now that part really confuses more students. Now listen, that 28% more tax, it is never gross tax. It is never gross tax. That 28% more tax is net tax. We shall do more of it. Don't worry. So let's have it. So now 128 all over 100, you multiply by the net tax, not the gross tax. So net tax, we have 3092. What are we getting? What is our new net tax? That is 3,957.76. And remember, I told you when it come to currency, or when you're dealing with the shillings, do not leave your answer to certain nearest cents. Always leave your answer to the nearest shillings. So having this the same as having 3,958 Kenyan shilling. That is our net tax. And remember, we do not tax people using net tax, but rather we can get taxable income using gross tax. It is the gross tax that will enable us to get the taxable income, not the net tax. The net tax, it is just there to show the amount of tax that at the end of the day, or at the end of the month, or at the end of the year, the particular civil servant will be taxed. All right. Okay. So remember, we had our formula that net tax equals to gross tax minus relief. So our net tax, our new net tax, net tax is this one. That is 3,958. But we don't know the gross tax in that particular year. Remember, this guy earnings was increased. And if the earnings was increased, that means that also the gross tax increased. So we don't have the gross tax, but now the relief, remember, relief remains constant. So what was the total relief? 2,197. 2,197. So what is our gross tax in that particular year? So having 3958 plus 2197. Remember, when that crosses the equal sign, it becomes an additional sign. So we shall have 6,155 Kenyan shillings. Now remember, this is the gross tax. This is the gross tax. How will I get my new taxable income? Because remember, the question want calculate the percentage increase in his earnings. And remember that earnings, it is the same as taxable earnings or the taxable income. So know how to interpret those are things. Know how to interpret those things. All right. If I were you, but let me do it step by step so that you understand. So in the first band, we have 10,164 multiplied by 10 over 100. Remember this we had already done somewhere. Guys, I want you to have in mind that this is our net tax. This part, remember, this is tax. This part is income or the taxable income. So having 19,740 minus 10,164 is 9,576. So 9,576 multiplied by what? 15 over 100 equals to what? We shall have the answer later. Again, if we subtract that, we shall get 9,576 multiplied by 20 all over 100. We shall have our answer later. Then now coming at 25. Remember, we were told that the additional earnings were taxed at 25% in each shillings. It was taxed at that band. So that means we don't know the taxable income in that band. And that is what we are looking for. We don't know that we don't know that taxable income. So let it be any unknown letter. Maybe for me I'll use M. So it is M minus the previous amount just in the right hand side, that is 29,316. You multiply by what? By 25 all over 100. Now 10,164 multiplied by that other, we had already gotten them. So let me just have them. So we have 1016.4, 1016.4, 1016.4, 9576, 15 over 100. We have a 1436.4. This other one, we add 1915.2. Now add these three. Add the three of those. So we have a 1915 plus 1436.4 plus 1016.4, which allow 4368. But remember, our gross tax was what? 6,155. So what is it remaining to have? What is it remaining from 6,155? What is it remaining? If we subtract that part, we are having 1,787. So reaching at this point, getting value M, which is our taxable income. I don't think if that part is difficult. So using a calculator, divide both sides by 2500, divide both sides by 2500. So this part cancel this part. So we have M minus 29,316 equals to, take that the other part on the left, on the right hand side, divide, we shall have 7,148. So what is our M, which is the same as taxable income? What is our M? Remember, the unknown was representing our taxable income. So our new taxable income will be 36,464. 36,464. So this is the new taxable income. New taxable income equals to 36,464. What was our original taxable income? Original taxable income. It was what, guys? 33,000. So the question asked, calculate the percentage increase. How do we get percentage increase? Percentage increase equals to increase all over original value multiplied by 100%. So what is the increase? From 33,000 to 36,464. The increase in that part is 3,464 divided by original value, which is 33,000, multiplied by 100%. Multiplied by 100%. So divide that by 33,000 multiplied by 100. We shall have our answer as 10.496968987%. Remember, this is percentage, not shillings, not currency. So that is that. So you can approximate your answer. You can approximate your answer after writing this full answer, and you maybe have 10.5% as your final answer. It will be still correct. It will be still correct only after having this. Only after having this. Let us check at another question. Let us check at another question. So first of all, let me provide you the table. Let me draw the table. So there is the table. Now, let me read the question. Gitau's basic salary for 2003 was 62,500 Kenyan shillings per month. The income tax rate that were applicable are shown in the table below. There is the table. He claimed a personal relief of 1,056 Kenyan shillings per month. Every month, 1,500 Kenyan shillings was deducted from his salary as cooperative shares and 3,500 Kenyan shillings deducted toward a loan recovery. He was housed. This question is very much interesting. He was housed by his employer and paid no rent. Determine his net monthly income. That question is 10 marks. That's the way it is. No part A, no part B, but it is 10 marks. And that question is very much tricky for a student who just do revision but don't get deep into the particular revision. So, how should the question be done? Number one thing I must tell you, before you do any question under income tax, check at what you've been given in the table and check what you have been given in the question. What the table entails and what the question entails, if there are two different things, then you must be very keen. So what am I saying? You should look in the table. You see this part? Written taxable income per annum, Kenyan shillings. That is what you should look in the table, not the wordings. Not the wordings. Look at the table. This very first band, the first band in that table. So that first band will guide you. Is it taxable income per month or is it taxable income per annum? So that part is very much important. Then go back to the question. Check those amounts. Are they given in annually or they are given in monthly rate? If I read for you the first part of the first sentence of the question, which reads, Gitau's basic salary for 2003 was 62,500 Kenyan shillings per month. Per month. And remember, the taxable income given is in per annum. And the question wants you, the end sentence of the question, determine is net monthly income. Monthly income, not annually income. But what has the table provided? Everything is in per annum. Does it means you will have to prepare a new table with taxable income per month? No. You'll be wasting time. Though that one is necessary, but you'll be wasting time. You'll be wasting time. You are in an exam room. Creating another table will take you 5 to 10 minutes. That is a waste. So let's see how we can do the question. So first of all, analyze the question, interpret the question. And how do you interpret the question? By having the terms or the important terms the question requires us to get. So what are those terms? Gitau's basic salary. That is the first term, basic salary. Gitau's basic salary for 2003 was 62,500 Kenyan shillings per month. Remember, that per month is also important, because if you just write 62,500, then leave it there, you might forget. So let's continue. He claimed a personal relief of 1056 per month. Relief. We are having our relief of 1056 per month. Every month. This question is a very good question for a Form 4 student. Every month. What happens every month? 1,500 was deducted. So deduction one is 1,500 from his salary as cooperative shares, and 3,500 deducted toward a loan recovery. You don't have to write loan recovery, Mara cooperative shares. No way. No. Remember, those are deductions. So we have our deduction 2. As 3,500. And remember, these things are being done every month. Okay. He was housed by his employee and paid no rent. So this guy has been housed. And pays no rent. That is what I mean by analyzing or interpreting the question. So after doing this, now let us get into what we are supposed to do. And remember, the question want what? Net monthly income. So number one, we must have our taxable income. We must have our gross tax. We must have our net tax. Then finally, we must have our net income. And remember, it is not just net income. It is net monthly income. Okay. Okay. So let's first start by getting our taxable income. Remember, I gave you 4 formulas. I gave you 4 formulas on how you can get taxable income depending on what the examiner has provided. Allowances, maybe just benefits, allowances or benefits, basic salary. We have what again? Someone has been housed, someone is paying rent, someone is not paying rent. I gave you all those. I gave you all those. Now, here, what will be the formula we use here? Remember, from what we've interpreted here, from what we've analyzed here, there are no allowance. There are some cases that allowance are not given. There are some cases that allowance are not given. So what is our taxable income? The formula that will be used in this part: basic salary plus 15% of basic salary. If this guy was paying rent, then we could have subtracted the rent. So remember, guys, our basic salary must be in monthly. Our basic salary must be per month. Our basic salary must be per month. So remember, the basic salary for this guy per month. Oh, sorry. Our basic salary must be per year. Per year. Sorry for that. So we are having 62,500. You multiply by 12. 62,500 you multiply by 12, you have what? 750,000. So that means in a year, this guy gets this amount. So this is the amount we shall use, because whatever we'll be using in the particular table are provided annually, are provided in annual rate. So having 750, we can now get our taxable income. So we have 750,000 add to 15% of basic salary, which is 750,000. So have that in your calculator. 15% of that basic salary plus 750,000. So that means we shall have our taxable income per month not per month, sorry guys, per year as 8,862,500. 862,500 Kenyan shillings. That is our taxable income. That is our taxable income. So ask yourself, where is this 862,500 Kenyan shillings falling? Is it which band is it falling at? In which band? So you realize that amount surpasses all the band. So that amount surpasses all the bands. So that means we shall tax Gitau using the whole table. So let us begin. Let us start. Let us start. So we have 116,000. Sorry. You must indicate this part you are dealing with income, but not that much necessary. So 160 multiply by what? 10 all over 100. Whatever you get on this side will be our tax. So take 225, 600 minus 116, 160. We are having 109, 440 times 15 all over 100. Take 335, 040 minus 225, 600. What are we having? 109, 440 multiplied by 20 all over 100. Okay. We are moving to the next band. That is 480 minus 335, 040. We are having again 109, 440. If you realize the flow is the same, don't make assumption that now the other part will also be 109, 440. No. You have to confirm. You have to confirm. That is where most of the students do messes a lot. And some examiners have realized it. So you will realize that the flow will be just well, but now coming to the other part, you'll realize that if you subtract, you'll have something to do with the 109, 441, something different from the flow. So always confirm, always just subtract to confirm, to be sure of what you are doing. Then we have over 4480. Now that over, we want to use that 480. Rather, we shall use our amount, 862,500. So now have 862,500 minus 480. What are we having there? 418,020. You multiply by 30 all over 100. So what do we have? Let's now get the tax. 116, 160 multiplied by 10 all over 100. 11,616. 109, 440 multiplied by 15 over 100. We are having 16,416. So 109, that one multiplied by 20, we are having 21,888. And that other part, we are having 27,360. And now coming to the last part, for 18,020 multiplied by 30 all over 100, we shall have 125,406. So guys, let us get the total gross tax. Let us get the total gross tax. So let's start from down here going up. So 125,406 plus 27,360. I hope you're having your calculator because I'm having mine, and that is what I'm using. So 125,406 plus 27,360 plus 21,888 plus 16,416 plus 11,616. So we're having a total of what? 202,686 Kenyan shillings. So that is our gross tax. That is our gross tax. That is our gross tax. And remember, it is per annum. It is per annum. After getting that, let us get the net tax. Let us get the net tax. You cannot get net income before having net tax. And you cannot get net tax before getting gross tax. So those things are in some procedures or some procedure that one must follow. So let us get our net tax. Remember, net tax is given by taking gross tax minus relief. We were provided with the relief. We had our relief from the interpretation we had. This is our relief. So take that relief, which is 1056, multiply it by 12. Why should I multiply it by 12? I'm converting it to year. I'm making it annually. Now take 1056 multiplied by 12, you shall get 12,672 shillings per annum. Great. So let's have our gross tax, which is 202,686 minus our relief, which is 12,672. So what are we having? 202,686 minus 12,672. We are having our net tax. That, remember, the net tax is annually. So we are having 190,014 Kenyan shillings. So after getting the net tax, then we can get the net income. So what is our net income? What formula do we use to get net income? That is taxable income minus all deduction. And remember, I told you back that a net tax is part of deduction. And when premium is involved in the particular question, then premium is also considered to be part of deduction. What was our taxable income? The taxable income we need is the annual taxable income, which was 862,500. 862,500. Let's subtract all the deduction. Deduction number one we must include before having anything else in our question is 190,014 Kenyan shillings. That is our first deduction, net tax. Now let's add the other deductions. Remember, we had them. We had already noted them down. And remember, they were deducted per month. They were deducted monthly. So let's get that 1,500 being deducted annually will be what? 18,000. 18,000 being deducted annually. What about 3,500 multiplied by 12? We get 42,000 being deducted annually. 42,000 being deducted annually. So add the two deduction. So 42,000 plus 18,000. 42,000 plus 18,000. That gives us a total deduction of 60,000. So come and add it to 190,014. So we shall have 862,500. Subtract. What is the total deduction? 190,014 plus 60,000 we shall have 250,014. That is our total deduction. So guys, it is very more easier to get our net income by now subtracting. And when we subtract that, we shall have Kenyan shillings 612,486. Remember, this is not the answer. Leaving the answer in this stage. If a good examiner comes across your paper, I mean a good examiner, an understanding examiner, he or she will give you 9. But a serious examiner will give you 8 marks. Why? You've not converted your your net income, your annual net income into monthly net income. So very much easy. Just divide by 12. When you have a calculator, everything is much more easier. So divide by 12 and have your final answer as 51,040.50. Remember, you don't have to leave your answer in this 50 cents thing. So have your final answer to be 51,041 Kenyan shillings. And that is how we tackle that question. Very, very, very more easier. Very much more easier. Very easy. So guys, I want to leave you with a question here that you will do, and make sure you get me your answer, or you write your answer after you are done in the comment section. I'll check. Or maybe if you'll have a problem, just ask and we shall do it together. So I'll leave you with this question. So first of all, let me write the table. Let me draw the table. So there is the table, and the question reads, the table below, the table below shows the income tax rate that were used in a certain year. In the month of June of that year, Patel's earnings were as follows. Patel's earnings were as follows. Basic salary was Kenyan shillings 19,800. House allowance was 5,200 Kenyan shillings. Medical allowance was 2,000 Kenyan shillings. Hardship allowance was 2,300 Kenyan shillings. Patel was entitled to a monthly tax relief of 1,056 Kenyan shillings. The first part of the question: calculate the amount of income tax that he paid in June. Calculate the amount of income tax that he paid in June. Part B of the question: in the month of July the same year, he received additional earnings that were taxed at 25% in each shilling. If the tax that he paid in July was 38% more than that which was paid in June, determine the percentage increase in his July earnings. Do that question. If I want to know if you guys are truly following. I'm just using a textbook, and the textbook I'm using is I Get It Right. That's a summary of what? Of Form 3 and Form 4 topics. Get It Right is one of the most good books which I would encourage you to buy, apart from having Made Familiar, having Smart Maths. So guys, thank you today. So I still have one more video of income tax that is 3 to 4 marks. 3 to 4 marks. and we shall look at that video. Then we move on to the next interesting topic. Guess that topic. The topic starts with C. Guess the topic. Thank you for today. Let us meet in the next video, that is revision income tax 3 to 4 marks, and we shall end it there, then start the next topic. Thank you for today. Kindly share and subscribe with other fellow friends. Thank you. Share knowledge. Share knowledge. There's a reason why I'm telling you this. Once again, thank you.